Welcome to my channel. I'm Dani Marie AUC, and I have albinism. I know, what a revelation. But because I have albinism, my skin lacks pigment, and that pigment normally provides protection from UV rays. I'm going to go over some of the sunscreen basics, like how to choose a sunscreen that's right for you, and some of my application tips. Don't forget to show your support by liking, subscribing, and clicking that bell icon so you can catch my latest videos. Let's get into it. I've written a very thorough article on this topic with resources, so if you guys want to check out the resources where I got my information, feel free to go browse my website and find that article. It will be linked below in the description. And for more information like that and other perspectives, check out albinismupclose.com. The sun puts out these light rays called ultraviolet rays. We can't see them, but they do affect our bodies. There are three types of UV rays: UVA, UVB, and UVC. But all UVC rays and some UVB rays are blocked out by the atmosphere. And this is why people normally don't talk about UVC rays when they're discussing ultraviolet rays. UVB rays penetrate the outermost layer of your skin called the dermis, but they can directly damage your body's DNA, so they are especially harmful. UVA rays penetrate to the next layer of skin called the epidermis, but UVA rays have more immediate results, such as sunburn. So sunburn is a short-term effect of sun exposure, whereas photoaging, premature aging, wrinkles, lines, sunspots, and skin cancer are the more long-term effects of UV rays. This is why choosing an appropriate and effective sunscreen is so important, especially for those of us with fair skin or with albinism. How do you choose the right sunscreen? This is absolutely going to be a personal preference, but I do have some good guidelines for you guys that will help you choose your next bottle of sunscreen. First of all, always look for broad spectrum on the bottle. Not all sunscreens are created equal. This means they don't all protect from both UVA and UVB rays. But if you keep an eye out for broad spectrum written on the bottle, that will, in theory, protect you from both types of sun rays. So next, you'll have to decide between a chemical or a physical sunscreen. And this topic is a bit contentious, but let's go into it anyway. Chemical sunscreens involve ingredients that are absorbed into your bloodstream. And some of these ingredients have been found to be endocrine disruptors, which means that they can hinder your hormones' ability to work in the body. And if you don't know, hormones affect almost every aspect of your body. A lot more research really needs to be done on most of these ingredients within chemical sunscreens and the ones within physical sunscreens, but I have found in my research 3 ingredients in particular that seem to definitively be described as endocrine disruptors. And I'm going to read them here to you so that I don't mess them up. I'll also put them on the screen for those of you who can see that, so that you can get the spelling right. The 3 ingredients are oxybenzone, octinoxate or octylmethoxycinnamate, and homosalate. And again, if you want to know more about that, the link to my thorough article with all my resources in it will be below in the description. So physical sunscreens tend to utilize mineral ingredients. There are 2 main ingredients that are found in physical sunscreens, and those are zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. These ingredients tend to sit on top of the skin and are not really thought to be absorbed into the bloodstream. One of the downsides with these ingredients is that sometimes they can leave a white cast on your skin. So if you wear it and you go out and you take a photo, you might look more pale and unnatural than usual. I mean, the trade-off is really up to you on that one. I actually just recently tried a physical sunscreen for the first time. So everyone has always recommended this one to me. It is Blue Lizard. And especially in the albinism community, this is a favorite. But I've never really been able to find this in my town until recently. And now Walmart carries it. Walmart is one of the few stores that we have here to shop at. And for those of you who don't know, I live in a very rural town. We don't have a huge variety of things, including shops. So it was good to finally get this and try it out. And I gotta say, I felt it worked pretty good. I mean, the bottle's really cool too. When this bottle is under UV rays, which can be harmful to your skin and your body, it turns blue. I will insert a picture. So this one is SPF 50 and it is sensitive. It is 5 fluid ounces, and honestly it was a bit pricey at around $15. So next, which application style are you going to choose? We have creams, sprays, solid sticks. I think I've seen roll-ons and powders, and there are others as well. This one is a bit of a personal choice, but also there are some things to consider. The only one that I absolutely cannot recommend, and that all of my research seems to point to this type being ineffective, is powder sunscreen. So that includes the SPF protection that you can find in some powder foundations and other makeups. But I have used creams and sticks with a lot of success. I have also had pretty good success with sprays. The application process of a spray sunscreen definitely has a margin of error. And that's especially true if you're applying that sunscreen on children who never sit still. And I mean, if it's about to be playtime, they're very excited and very wiggly. So that can definitely lead to you missing some spots. Also, if it's windy, the wind is sure to take some of that sunscreen with it. So keep that in mind. What I do love a spray sunscreen for, I have the one that I've been using this year, by the way. This is Neutrogena Beach Defense. It is a broad spectrum SPF 30. But what I do love sprays for is my scalp. So the scalp is particularly hard to rub on creams because it would get all gunky in my hair and I'm sure to miss a spot. So with the spray, I can just give my head a really good spray and I should be covered. Next, which SPF is best? So the definitive answer here really is anything between 30 and 50 or 60 SPF is just fine. So again, this is a little bit of a contentious topic, but from all my research, and again, you can find that in my article linked below, anything over SPF 50 or 60 is not worth the money and is also potentially dangerous. So let me explain that before anyone jumps ahead. Okay, so 50 or 60 SPF provides about a 98% protection from UV rays. That's a pretty good margin of error. 2%, you know, it's fine. It's fine. But if you pay, twice as much for 100 plus SPF, you're only gonna gain 1 percentage point. You're gonna get up to 99%. And to me, that's not worth it. Also, that 100 plus SPF really makes people think that they don't have to reapply their sunscreen or that they have to reapply it less, and that's just not the case. So definitely choose for yourself, but do check out the resources in my article. Again, I know, I've already said it 50 times. So let's move on to my application tips. Tip number 1 is to apply generously. Do not skimp here, this is really important. So according to the FDA, you need about 1 ounce of sunscreen, that's about a shot glass full, to cover an average size human from head to toe, or child for that matter. So according to the FDA, you need about 1 ounce or a shot glass full of sunscreen to cover an average sized human or child from head to toe. And I know this is 5 ounces for $15. Should only get me 5 applications, but last time I went to the beach I was actually wearing a long sleeve rash guard, and so I had less skin to cover. So things like that are going to help you obviously keep your skin and your body protected. So just keep that in mind. Tip number 2 is apply before you get out in the sun. So whether you decide on a chemical or a physical sunscreen, both of these need time to dry down. Because if you go out and your sunscreen is still wet, your clothes can make it shift, your movements can make it shift, and also it can be rinsed off by sweat and water. Be sure to apply that sunscreen ahead of time. Tip number 3 piggybacks on the back of that. Let that sunscreen dry down. Let it dry completely before you get in the water or go out to play or sweat or move around. Give it a chance to dry fully so that it can be as effective as possible, because you don't want it to shift and end up with patchy bits of sunburn here and there. That just is not fun. Tip number 4, apply under the edge of clothing. This is super important because clothing shifts. Whether it's a bathing suit or play clothes or whatever, be sure to lift up the edges of the clothing, spray or spread the cream or stick or whatever method you're using underneath the edges of the clothing. Tip number 5, don't forget your scalp, ears, face, and neck. So the skin in these areas is thinner than most of the rest of your body, and when it gets sunburned, it hurts. Some of these areas are so easy to forget too. I've heard so many people say, oh, I forgot to put sunscreen on my ears. And I have had sunburn on my ears, right on the tops of those ears, and it hurts so bad, as does your scalp and any face sunburns. Also, your face, neck, and ears are 3 of the most common places where skin cancer is found. So it's very important to make sure you cover those areas. Tip number 6, cover areas even if you think they're shaded by a hat or other clothing. Because, as I discussed in my photophobia video, which I will link in a card up here on the right, UV rays reflect off of things. And they reflect especially well off of sand, water, asphalt, snow, and really any flat surface can reflect UV rays. So even if you think your face may be shaded by a hat, those UV rays could begin sneaky on you and reflecting under that hat. So keep that in mind. Tip number 7, reapply every 2 hours. And if you're active, swimming, sweating, or playing, reapply every hour. Sunscreen tends to shift around in your body, as I've mentioned in previous tips, and it can also be rinsed off by sweat and water. So this is also why it's important to reapply whenever you get out of the water. Get out of the water, dry off, reapply sunscreen, let it dry down, and repeat. Tip number 8, my last tip, don't forget to replace that sunscreen every year. Sunscreen ingredients do become less effective over time. So you don't want to waste your time applying that sunscreen when it might not even be effective. This is the time to pay attention to those expiration labels. I know. Sunscreen is not cheap. It is not fun to have to buy every year or multiple times a year if you're covering a couple children or you're out in the sun a lot. I do not enjoy the sun, and that is not because I'm a person with albinism. That is just because I do not enjoy the heat. But I don't spend a ton of time outside. So every summer, spring, summer, fall, I'll go to the beach a few times. And maybe I'll spend a few weekends here or there outside. So I'm very lucky. These 2 bottles I bought the spray and the Blue Lizard cream that I mentioned, probably would last me most of the summer. Now I did share this one with a friend of mine, so it may not make it all the way through, but that's fine. But the Blue Lizard, I think it's gonna hold me through the entire year. But I'm gonna have to buy a new bottle next year. I also do apply sunscreen to my face regularly. So for anyone who asks, that's also a good tip. Get some good sunscreen lotion that's meant for your face, that you like the feel of, that can go under makeup. And apply it every day. That is the majority of the information I have for you on sunscreen right now. I do want to do some of my favorite sunscreens eventually, but honestly, buying and testing sunscreens is so expensive. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to get to it. But one day. Keep an eye out for a surviving the beach with albinism video, where I'll go over my favorite tips and tricks for going to the beach and still having a good time. Even though I'm extremely fair, I have photophobia, and I generally don't love the heat. So make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you can see when that video comes out, along with all my other ones. I appreciate you guys. As always, stay curious. And until next time, bye.